If there's one thing that is truly American, it's the right to protest.
Like, I was like, find Donald Trump, because I was adamant on finding him and then making a video of me going, hey, Trump, fuck you.
Well, that works. And if there's one thing Trump can't handle, it's that very thing. Man Titties went to a D.C. restaurant, my hometown, and as you see, he was followed by his three little castratos, Little Marco, Vice Jr., and Secretary Kegsbreath. Trump proceeded to walk through the room like he was a king. But considering what's happened in D.C., what happened next was no surprise.
Trump, you are not welcome here! Yes, he is! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! He's terrorizing communities all over the world! From Puerto Rico to the Philippines! Free Palestine! To Venezuela! He is terrorizing communities! He is not welcome to D.C. Shame on you all!
Okay, a couple things. The protesters were escorted out, and while Trump acted amused, he was actually furious. Trump has claimed recently that D.C. restaurant attendance has increased amid his crackdown on crime in D.C., which included a surge in federal law enforcement and the deployment of armed National Guard troops. Before he entered the restaurant, though, Trump said that the city was now crime-free, and he's announcing similar crackdowns on other cities as soon as today. But of course, it's all a lie. And while Trump is attacking U.S. cities, and that's exactly what he's doing, the only fear and trepidation is coming from the presence of armed men with assault rifles. And let's remember, and this is said with all due respect to the National Guard, these guys aren't cops. They're trained to fight in wars against foreign adversaries, not to chase down a car thief or smash and grab at Walgreens. And the truth is, the FBI says violent crime is down every year since 1985. Look, I grew up in D.C., and I have family there. When I go back, downtown D.C. is beautiful and vibrant, which brings us to the truth. The northeast and southeast areas of D.C. do have gangs, as most cities do. And they aren't MS-13 or Latino gangs full of illegals. No, they're good old American criminals. But guess what? Trump isn't sending his troops there. That would be a nightmare for the National Guard. Trump wants them right downtown to intimidate D.C. residents in the hopes that they will admire him. That's not how Americans are built, though. We fight back. But of course, Trump and the racist MAGA crowd only focus on Antifa and Black Lives Matters in protests because they are, for the most part, easy prey for bigots. When Derek Chauvin executed George Floyd, Americans protested. Not just black Americans, but all Americans. And Trump and Fox News and MAGA flipped out, attacking the crowds who were demanding change by extolling the virtues of idiots like Kyle Rittenhouse, a hero, and a murderer.
In some cases, you have bad cops, so we have to take care of that. In other cases, they choke. They have a quarter of a second to make a decision. And sometimes they make the wrong decision. I honor law enforcement.
And of course, we saw the real Trump when the protests got close to home, with tiny fingers scurrying down into his bunker when the peaceful protests in Lafayette Square, across the street from the White House, grew large and vocal. They were entirely peaceful until attacked by police, so Trump could walk across the street and hold up a Bible.
To describe what happened in Washington, D.C. as mostly peaceful protests, I think is a lot like describing Scott Peterson as a mostly faithful husband or Al Capone as a mostly law-abiding businessman.
The footage reviewed by the Post did not show protesters throwing bricks or caustic liquids, as authorities have alleged.
There is a question about the amount of violence that took place. Protests, as we all know, are legal. If someone heard a statement from a policeman saying, move, move, is that the kind of legal qualification that would be used?
When an officer tells you to move back, particularly after these warnings, you are expected to comply.
Are they moving through again? This is exactly what it looks like. Exactly what it looks like. We're to stay safely.
Oh.
That's a photographer.
Following his comment that he would be visiting a sacred place, he left the White House and walked with his Attorney General, his Chief of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, his press team, his daughter, and his son-in-law across Lafayette Park, the area of the nation's capital that had just moments before that been cleared with tear gas and rubber pellets where peaceful protesters had been.
In particular, I mean, you opened the book with June the 1st, 2020. This is in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, when there had been protests in Washington. And there's a meeting in the White House where former President Trump is asking you and others to do something about it. Tell us about that particular day, that meeting.
Well, as I recount in the book, General Milley and I get called to the White House early that morning, and we report in, and people are already assembled. And almost immediately, the president begins, shouting that he's very irate that the protests were occurring. He was talking about invocation of the Insurrection Act and the deployment of 10,000 active duty troops into the streets of the nation's capital. And it was at that point in time that I, Bill Barr, and with General Milley's assistance as well, began pushing back on that notion. But this was a law enforcement issue, certainly not a matter for the active duty forces to be involved in.
And of course, the MAGA crowd on January the 6th, albeit gathered on the lie Trump was propagating about a stolen election, had every right to protest until they attacked the police and invaded the Capitol, screaming for the deaths of Pelosi and Vice President Pence. And what did Trump and MAGA do then? After a cop was killed and 100 more sent to hospitals, they pardoned the terrorist.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages.
And now plan military honors for one of them, Ashley Babbitt, who tried to break into the area where, had the doors been broken down, who knows how many members of Congress would have died.
I hear the Pence just caved.
No.
Is that true?
I didn't.
I'm hearing reports that Pence caved.
No
I'm
way.
telling you, if Pence caved, we're gonna drag through the streets.
D.C. has always had protests. It's a nation's capital, and the protests and the coverage of them helped end the Vietnam War. But not all protests were that successful. In 1970, the National Guard fired on unarmed student protesters, killing 4 of them on the campus of Kent State. Yeah, the National Guard. The frightening aspect of Trump's crackdown is he has no plan other than to make his enemies cower and to ignore all of their constitutional rights. Look, the bottom line is simple. When you have a fascist state looming in the shadows, it's incumbent on Americans to protest. I mean, if you give a shit, this is how it works. The protesters at the restaurant, that won't happen again. Trump's Secret Service are getting their asses reamed because Trump felt vulnerable and scared. So getting near Trump won't be possible, but that's okay. What we need to do is loosen the bowels of his minions. We need to stand outside of Sean Hannity's home and let that thumb-faced fuckstick shit his pants. We need to follow Mike Johnson to church or Chick-fil-A or wherever the fuck he goes and shout him down. We need to stand outside Clarence Thomas's house and his tremendous C-word of a wife. No violence, just numbers. We start at the bottom and we make a point. You see, MAGA knows one thing. There's no loyalty inside their circus tent. Take Dairy Queen. She had Trump's back since day one until Epstein, and then she said, that's wrong. You're not supposed to have sex with 13-year-olds. Now MAGA is calling for her to be primary.
The truth needs to come out, and the government holds the truth. The cases that are sealed hold the truth. Jeffrey Epstein's estate holds the truth. The FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA holds the truth.
Look, this is easy. We show up in numbers, we remain peaceful, and we win. While voting is the ultimate power, getting people active guarantees they will turn out. And when it's all over, you'll have a huge block of America learning how we once stood up to a king with his armies and his bullshit, and we kicked his ass, firmly and resolutely. MAGA stole the idea of a revolution by appealing to people's base instincts, propelled by fear and hatred. So it's time to take the revolution back.
Hey, Trump, fuck you.
And that's how we start.
Goddamn right.
Are you not entertained?
It's sitting on my desk.
Who are you talking to?
I could be a stupid person.
Trump admitted he knew Epstein for 15 years.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Do you have no shame?
I'm sorry, man.
You're a nasty person.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list.
It's not fair. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.